Well, hi there. I'm Colin Lamb, aka the Tone Wizard, and I hope you're doing very well wherever it is that you may happen to be. Cheers to you and cheers to me. I have a confession to make right off the top of this video, and that is simply that I have enjoyed for years, perhaps going back as early as 1997 to present times, I've enjoyed listening to and will continue enjoy listening to the band Smashmouth. I logged onto the internet today. I was going to do a reaction video that somebody recommended, but I found that the singer, Steve Harwell, co-founder and vocalist for the 90s pop rock band Smashmouth, died. He was 56 years old and is reported to have died due to liver failure. Don't know quite how that could have happened. During his time with the band, Smashmouth had numerous chart-topping hits, was nominated for a Grammy somehow, and sold over 10 million albums. Now, most notably in recent times, at a 2021 performance at the Big Sip Beer and Wine Festival in Bethel, New York, Harwell appeared again somehow to be intoxicated. I don't know how that could have happened at that kind of event, but he was allegedly making threatening gestures to the crowd, including what appeared to be allegedly a Nazi salute. Was not there, have not seen photos, can't confirm if that happened. What I can say is that if it did, it's reprehensible. There's no excuse for making that kind of gesture in any setting. If he was inebriated, I've read that he did have some addiction issues and appears to have died from liver failure, which I wouldn't wish upon anybody. But it sounds like maybe he was in rough shape, and when people are in that condition, they can have outbursts that are not pleasant and are usually symptomatic of a deeper trouble. And again, there's no excusing that kind of behavior, but I did have to bring it up at the beginning of this video because otherwise I knew somebody would in the comments. But nevertheless, I was still saddened when I heard this news. I did listen to that band back in the day. I've covered a lot of stuff on the channel. I will listen to anything and I'll give it a shot. But back when their music was coming out on the radio, people were still listening to the radio. I used to tune into the radio every single day at 5 o'clock. There's a top 5 at 5, and then later on there's a top 10 at 5. And this would be AM radio. Back in the day in Toronto, there's a station called a guy called Tarzan Dan who used to count down the top 10. Later on into the 90s, we had the music video era, which up here was Much Music and down south was MTV, and they would give you top 20s or whatever it was, singles, which had music videos. And I remember many of the songs that Smashmouth came out with. Walkin' on the Sun definitely comes to mind. With that band. I think that's a great song. Smashmouth kind of get lumped into a kind of laughable category for basically just being pop music that maybe some people don't think has aged well, but I still hear their damn songs everywhere you go. And I know that the grocery store is not a good indication of someone's success, but I also hear the Beatles at the grocery store. I also hear Destiny's Child at the grocery store. I hear Marvin Gaye at the grocery store, etc. The list goes on and on. It's music that's in the popular ethos, and particularly back when I was a kid in the 90s, when music and culture was spoon-fed to us, Jesus Christ, down the pipeline of those big outlets like radio stations. That as I grew older, I later found out, there was 3 companies that owned all the radio stations. I didn't know that at the time. But anyways, culture was a lot more focused back then and controlled, arguably, for better or for worse. But songs could become part of the popular culture. They could become ingrained into our heads. They could become moments where 30 years later in a bar, you hear a song you haven't heard in 15 years and you still know all the words. It's in there. Now, whether or not that's because it was bashed in there with a fucking chisel and hammer and through repetition, or whether or not the songs had a redeeming melodic value or you secretly enjoyed them is neither here nor there to me, but it's something that I don't think can be denied. And I am sad that that Steve Harwell has died. I did not know him personally. I don't worship celebrities. There's definitely bands that I really love. I love music. I love talking about music. That's been the focus of my channel, but I can separate the song in most cases from the artist. Maybe let me know what you think about that comment, that statement in the comments, and what your own thoughts about that are. It's something that we seem to have to be doing more and more often. And on the note of the recent poor behavior that Steve allegedly has had. I would say that, obviously Smashmouth, they're past their prime, their glory days are behind them. And when artists get to a point where they're in that late stage of their career, we tend to hear more about the bad things that they do rather than the good things, because the big successes may be farther and fewer between. But definitely this band, it holds a special place in my heart, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Later on in my teens, I listened to a lot of death metal, and I got into heavier music, got fucking moody and aggravated. Who knows? Maybe if I would have kept listening to Smashmouth, I could have avoided a lot of that anger. But I found some good music in there for sure as well. But I don't know. It was sad to see him go. I mean, just personally, my wife and I, we have a road trip kind of playlist that we've built over the years, and it has some Smashmouth in it. Smashmouth is one of those bands. Definitely Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, bands like that. Up here in Canada, there's a band called I Mother Earth, which I loved when I was young. Our Lady Peace. I'm not too ashamed to admit that the pop bands that I loved when I was a kid, but those bands that they always make me nostalgic when I hear them. And I think that also the songs were great as well. I think that they had some great melodies in there. Some of them were cheesy and campy for sure, but definitely Walking on the Sun for me is a great song, and I think it stands up it stands out in any catalog. I think that the musicianship with that kind of squeezy organ that they had going on in there, and the rockabilly feel to it, that Americana feel, was definitely a great track. And yeah, I definitely, like I say, I'm more sad because I realize that I'm getting old. Maybe that's the dark side of nostalgia. Is that fucking Reaper is slowly creeping up on you, and you can hear him whispering, and the whispering gets a little louder every year, man. And he's coming for you, brother. And none of us can escape the toll. Pay the toll and keep your soul, brother. I completely digress there, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know how you feel about the passing of the singer of Smashmouth in the comments. So maybe let me know what you feel about Smashmouth in general, and if you have some kind of nostalgia-driven comment you'd like to add as well. Maybe if you think they're complete garbage, if you think the man was a reprehensible waste of space, that's your opinion. But I have some good memories tied to the music that he made before he fell onto hard times, and I think that's what I'll continue to remember. And I think on my way to work tomorrow, I've got a new employee starting with me in the morning. He's going to drive in the truck with me. He's a young guy. I'll see if he's heard of Smashmouth, and maybe I'll report back on that. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and take very good care of yourself, because somebody